Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Techish Podcast. We're your
Whoop,
hosts,
whoop.
Abadesi, a puzzle crew, and
Michael Bain, Pocket
we
CEO.
need to
Let's
work
go.
on your whoop whoops, by the way, because your whoop whoops have become a bit lackluster. They're a bit whoop
You know
whoop,
what?
formulaic whoop whoops.
Let's not record in the morning, innit? Then I'll have the energy in it. It's the morning that gets me. Like,
Get this
we'll record in the
guy a
afternoon.
coffee. Get this guy a
Basically,
green
yeah.
tea, full strength. Okay, cool. Well, let's get straight into it. We'll warm you up a little bit. So Beyonce's dropping new brands left, right, and center. Shall we just dive straight in? Will you be sampling Sir Davis whiskey at your next party? Well, you don't even drink, actually. Will your friends
I
be
don't drink
sampling?
anymore.
Will your
I
friends be
honestly don't
sampling Sir
think.
Davis?
I don't think anyone will. So she's basically, it's named after her great grandfather, who apparently was a moonshiner during Prohibition.
It's a nice little
And
origin story.
yeah, it is. But I'm not gonna lie, man. The vibes are feeling a bit. I mean, it's very hard to call somebody as successful as Beyonce desperate, but it does feel a bit like they're throwing whatever they can at the
He went
wall
there.
and seeing what sticks. Because if we recollect Ivy Parker, which was her brand with Adidas, that got shut down, or at least the
Yes.
partnership with Adidas got shut down. I got some
Adidas
stats
is like,
here.
I'm just dropping all black people after the Ye controversy.
You know what? No, because I think Ye was the real earner, and I think Beyonce was like a great brand alignment. But apparently, the revenue went from basically 100 million to about 40 million in the space of a year.
Ooh,
So I think it never really made
wow.
sense.
Okay.
So then she's also launched now a hair care line called Sacred, and now she's
Yes.
also launched this whiskey line soon after the kind of Ivy Parker thing hasn't really worked out. And you know what, man?
Yeah.
I feel like the problem with Beyonce, I think, is that we don't know who she is as a person. So it's very difficult to do brand deals or create your own brand when we don't know what is your essence. We know that you're a talented performer, amazing singer, amazing
Yeah.
dancer, but she's very old school in a sense, kind of like Michael Jackson at the time, where you didn't really know much about them, very mysterious. So
Your
then for you to
namesake.
come online now, yeah, exactly, there we go. So for you to come online now and say like, yo, here's my brand, it doesn't really make sense to me. I compare that with Rihanna, where she's very, you get her vibe, even as a person. It's very, you know what I'm saying? I can't even describe it. It's got a je ne sais quoi about, with Riri. And it
X-Factor.
aligns. She obviously makes X Factor. She obviously makes a great product too with Savage Fenty, or Fenty Beauty. But at the same time, it's still, it just makes more sense. What's your thoughts? Do you get what I'm saying here?
I totally get what you're saying. You know, as investors, you kind of ask yourself the question, why you to sell this product as a founder, right? If someone's pitching to you, like, why are you selling this product? And I think the point that you're making, like with Fenty Beauty, you're like, wow, okay, Rihanna's face is always 100. So yes, it makes sense. With the lingerie, it's like you watch her music videos or her performances and you're like, she's a badass, sexy bitch. So yes, this also makes sense. But when Beyonce launches a whiskey brand, you're like, does Beyonce drink? Like
Exactly.
I mean, I've seen her pose with a glass of champagne. I've seen her pose in a giant glass of champagne, but I don't have any recollection of, Beyonce getting crunk or anything like that. So it feels weird. Like, why are you selling and whiskey of all things? I don't know. Like when I picture her in jail on the yacht, I'm thinking more of like a rum cocktail. And apparently this whiskey is actually done really well. Like it was submitted anonymously into taste competitions and has won awards. I mean, this is based on one tweet that I read on Beyonce Twitter, Beehive Twitter, so you might want to fact check that. But yeah, I think there's definitely like a bit of a question mark around why whiskey. And the other thing is a question mark around why are you releasing so many brands in such quick succession? Like you're diluting your audience, you're diluting your brand. Like she could have launched the hair care brand, given it like half a financial year to see how it performs, then lean into another product launch. But instead they're dropping like the Renaissance albums, just boom, boom, surprise drops. And I don't know if like that works with products. It might work with albums when you're already an established artist, but is that going to work with products? I mean, we'll just see what happens with the revenue and see what happens.
Yeah, I think people say that Beyonce only comes online to sell stuff. Like she very rarely comes online unless it's like, she's dropping a product. And I think as an audience, Gary Vee talked about jab, 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 right hook, which is that you've got to give me entertainment, you've got to give me free stuff. And then eventually when you got that right hook, when it's time to sell something, then I'm invested. Whereas with Beyonce, it feels like, here's an album.
Yeah.
I don't think,
Do you know what I mean?
music
like,
she is.
People might take morsels. Like she's busy, she's got kids, she's got a life, and also she is private. And I think Beyonce is actually like a really interesting case study in the age of social media, right? Because we are used to knowing everything about celebrities, like Real Housewives put that put everything out there, and that created this precedent for, I want to know everything about your life. The Kardashians, I want to know your dirty laundry. I want to know when your relationships are falling apart. I want to know when you got your lips done. And Beyonce has very much decided, no, like, you don't get my privacy. Like, I don't owe you every detail of my life. A very famous example of this is like the altercation between like Solange and Jay-Z in the elevator. Who knows what happened in that elevator?
To this day, we don't know.
Do you know what I mean? Any other celebrity would have, like, a family would have sold that story to reality TV or Hello Magazine or whatever. So I do think over the long arc of time, it's going to be really interesting to kind of like look back at Beyonce and how she has approached celebrity. And look, I'm not going to lie, as someone who is a very small audience by comparison, I get shook sometimes when I'm like recognized in places where I don't expect to be recognized, or when I'm stopped in places where I don't expect to be stopped. And, I often ask myself the question, like, can I, build a platform without being as accessible as people expect me to be, especially in an age of like incel culture and stuff like that, where there are times where I post my truth and I receive a barrage of abuse and sexist stuff and racist stuff. And then that makes me less willing to share more intimate facts of my life, because I'm like, there are people out there on a mission to make me feel unsafe, on a mission to make me feel small. Do I really want to like bring them into like my beauty regime, or like get ready with me, and like all these kind of intimate secrets of my life, or details of my life, maybe not secrets? I don't know. So, from a business perspective, fine, question mark. But from just like a living your life as a Black woman perspective, I gotta give her kudos. I respect that.
But I think it's twofold. It's one, that she doesn't reveal that much about herself outside of music. To be fair, in the music, she's actually very honest and transparent. The Lemonade album, she talked about Jay's infidelity. Then Jay did 444, where he talked about him messing up. So in the music, they're actually quite transparent. But it's also just like, so that there's that one privacy issue, but then there's also the other issue of brand alignment. And the things that she's releasing, to me, don't even align with what she has put out there. So to me, if I was Beyonce's team, I'd be thinking about, how do we do something to do with health? Maybe she's 40 plus, still going on tour, killing it, right? That makes sense to me. I don't want to be cliche, but can she do something around family, motherhood? I don't know, something where it's like, okay, this is what you've actually put out. You have never put out, let's get whiskey. That's not your thing. I went to her concert. I did not see a bunch of whiskey drink. I didn't see whiskey folks there. I'll be honest with you. That wasn't the vibe. There was a lot of young people, Gen Z, millennial people. And I was like, this ain't the ambience. Obviously, he's cancelled now, but when Diddy did Ciroc, that made sense, because Diddy's whole brand was party, party, party. Let's get lit. So and here's the alcohol for you while you're at my party wearing my clothes. Right? That made sense, right? This doesn't make sense in many aspects. So privacy, go for it. But the reality is also, this has an impact on her net worth. So obviously, listen, she's completely fine. She will never be broke. But Forbes reported that her net worth was between 500 to 800 million.
I'll take it.
Her music catalog makes up 300 million of it. So basically, over 50% of her net worth is basically based on her music. Whereas Riri, net worth 1.4 billion, Fenty Beauty making up the vast majority of that, right? So as much as we're like, these people are fine, it does make a material difference in terms of what strategy you implement will directly impact how much do you rely on music to generate your wealth, right? Because maybe you're not always going to be hot forever. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Let's see, innit? They'll be fine. But I just find it funny. I think the team, she's ill-advised, I think. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, let's move on from the world of celebrity to the world of encrypted messages, illicit activities, organized crime gang activities. Are you someone who uses Telegram? Like, have you replaced WhatsApp or iMessage with Signal, Telegram, any of these like Uber encrypted services?
I haven't, because I feel like Telegram primarily is just for like crypto scams and join the Signal group. We're gonna yeah, listen, because the thing is, in outside of the US doesn't really use WhatsApp, but WhatsApp is apparently meant to be end-to-end encrypted. So there wasn't really an incentive for me to be like, oh, I want an encrypted app. Telegram only ever came on my radar where people were doing scams, or like, yo, get in this crypto group, we're going to pump and dump. And I never wanted to be involved. Obviously, if you're law enforcement, if you're listening, that's not me, right? So never. But what's happened to the CEO of Telegram? Because actually his net worth, I didn't realize that actually was like astronomical. He's worth like 60 billion. What's happened to him now?
Okay. So this guy, Pavel Durov, Russian business exec, entrepreneur, investor, co-founder and CEO of Telegram. He previously founded another social networking site that got really popular in Russia and was eventually kind of like shut down because the government wanted access to it and wanted to restrict its usage. But that's all good because then he started Telegram and now he's a billionaire. The guy's only 39 years old, landed in his private jet in Paris last Saturday, August 24th, and was detained as part of a judicial investigation open last month involving 12 alleged criminal violations. So if you want to know what he is basically up against in terms of breaking the law, apparently Telegram has been allowing the selling of child sexual abuse material. It's been facilitating drug trafficking and fraud, allegedly, according to the charges against him, abetting organized crime transactions, and refusing to share information and documents with investigators when required by law. So this is some pretty big stuff. And yeah, what do you think?
It's difficult because it comes down to that philosophical question: do people have the right to have basically complete and utter privacy when no government can have access to your messages, basically? And I think I would lean towards yes. And then also part two, who is responsible for what happens on a platform? So we have laws, I know in the US, where if I use Facebook to do a madness, Mark Zuckerberg is not responsible. If I message you, to do something crazy, that's not Mark Zuckerberg's responsibility, right? People have argued against that, but that's how it is. So at the moment, France is trying to hold him liable for stuff that's gone down on his platform. And we'll see how it. I think that it's difficult. I think that
the thing is,
my conspiracy theory is that a lot of this is a bit of a front. I don't believe that these charges are really what it's about. I believe that a part of it is also to do with
a Russia-France thing.
Yes, and also he's not controllable, as in he's not playing ball with anybody, basically. As in, like, I feel like with Facebook and WhatsApp,
he's the Jack Ma of Russia, basically, is what you're trying to say. Government's coming.
Well, Jack Ma got in trouble for saying something pretty innocuous, right, in China. But this is more to do with, like, I feel like with WhatsApp, even though it's end-to-end encrypted, if the US government went to Facebook and said, give us information on a person, they would give it. Whether that's metadata, whether that's like, because the metadata is like, who have I sent messages to? What time did I send it? What location did I send it? But maybe the actual message is encrypted. I feel like he's on this like religious path of like no government involvement, complete privacy. So now they're like, we got to get him somehow. So that's my conspiracy theory, innit?
I think privacy is a right, but you lose that right once you become under suspicion of committing a criminal act. That's how we have to treat it. So if there is suspicion that people are using your platform to organize crime that is violating citizens' rights, right? Whether it's child pornography, whether it's other types of scams, fraud, abuse, the minute like a user's account is flagged for any of these activities, especially with the like rising levels of cybercrime, I think that investigators should be able to kind of say, look, we need to like look into this. We need to investigate this. Otherwise, how are you ever going to crack down on these crimes?
See, the problem is that there's not a technology that exists where you can have encryption that has a backdoor for law enforcement. Basically, it either is encrypted or it's not. So we either all have privacy or we don't, basically. So that's the hard part. So this happened with Apple, where the FBI went to Apple and said, can you give us a backdoor to an iPhone? We know there's a terrorist attack or whatever. And Apple said, we can't, because if we give you a backdoor, that backdoor exists for all kind of nefarious actors. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, this is why these are the conundrums of the 21st century. I mean, are we in the 21st century? Yeah, we are. These are the conundrums of the 21st century, where it's like, who has the right answer? I don't know, right? Because like, it kind of reminds me when I was a kid. I remember during the kind of 9/11 era, people would be like, oh, what do you do if there's a ticking time bomb and you have to torture somebody to get the answer, basically, right? Most people objectively would say torture is wrong. But oh my God, what if there's like a ticking time bomb and there's a terrorist and we need to get the answer from him? Do you agree that we should be able to torture him? Now, you can have your lofty ideals, but in that moment, most people would be like, yeah, smack him, please get the answer, right? Same with it. Everyone, privacy is great, but hold on, what if this is now being used for, child molestation or, dodgy stuff, right? Then everyone's like, forget privacy, take it. And I think most people, in order to feel safe, would sacrifice privacy. In terms of the ideals, it's safety first, and then it's privacy like third, fourth, in a sort of like idealistic way. But if your safety is jeopardized or your children's safety is jeopardized, everyone's like, get rid of privacy. I do not care, basically.
Isn't there like a middle ground, right? What if like I don't need to see the content of the messages? I can just like try and infer things from other data points like IP addresses, locations, the size,
Yeah.
like the volume of the data that's being shared. We know things like media and stuff like that are going to be like larger file sizes. Like, I'm not saying I need to see the messages, but I just need like enough to like, you know, map it against other variables, other data points I'm collecting. I don't know. Anyway, this is like a very, very interesting case. I'm sure everyone is going to be following it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of organized crime gangs out there who are very concerned and very sad. But let's face it, if they shut down Telegram, another thing's just going to come up. Another thing's just going to come up because people be scamming. They love a good scam.
One last thing on this story was that he was traveling with a girlfriend of his who posted the entire journey of where they were. Oh, we're in Azerbaijan, we're here. She was tagging locations. And it started an interesting conversation of like, was she like a CIA like honey trap? And then also the other conversation that I saw that was interesting is that you often see celebrities and athletes date the same women, and people are often like, why do people date? Why do these athletes always kind of date the same circle? Why is it so incestuous? But a lot of times I think it's because people know how to behave. If you're somebody who's used to dating NBA players, you know how to behave. You know how to like, okay, let me be private, let me be discreet. We don't want to expose this location. We don't want to. Whereas sometimes somebody who's just a bit too new with it, they're gonna be like, oh my god, here's everything. I think so too. Yeah, I think people are like, yo, this person knows how to like be with somebody of my stature or my caliber or my lifestyle, and I think that is a factor.
That's really interesting
like
because
you've been here before, as the kids say.
I mean, Pavel is like. He didn't grow up with wealth, right? Like he was just like an ordinary, really smart guy in St. Petersburg. And then he's had 2 really successful startups. But yeah, I mean, maybe I thought you were going to go down the line of like, they're the new like 21st century Mata Haris. And actually these women are like sleeper agents for intelligence agencies.
There's both theories. Yeah, there's 2 theories. There's that theory. Okay. And there's also this. Yeah. She could be a CIA honey trap. And then you never know.
That sounds like a fun job, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I think that'll be pretty exciting. But yeah, let's talk about this little clip that came out on my mixtapes about T-Pain's first ever deal at the tender old age of 18, where he reveals that he got a $40 million advance and blew it. How quickly do you think you could spend $40 million?
Yeah, I think I could do it pretty quickly in about 2-3 years, but I wouldn't. And I think I brought
2 or 3 years, that's not fast.
But I brought this into our show notes because you often hear like young musicians talk about the label screwed me over, the label did this. Because in his deal, I think the label got 85% of his future earnings, which obviously is a lot of money. But at the same time, if there was any sort of financial training, financial acumen provided to these young artists, $40 million invested over, you know, a 10-year period in a very, you know, conservative index fund, S&P 500, he could have 200, 300, 400 million right now.
True.
Because he's probably now, how old is he now? He's probably in his like mid to late 30s. That's a long enough time period to have seen extensive growth if you had invested it. But what happens is a lot of these artists are basically not financially trained. They spunk their money at the wall when they keep it real. And then they come on Twitter talking about my label screwed me. And it's like, your label did screw you, but also like you screwed yourself to a certain extent here. Like, and it's just sad.
But you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. That's the point.
But you don't know.
But then I feel like I feel like the real evil of the labels is not necessarily the deals they're giving. It's also the fact that they don't even put an arm around these artists and try to help them understand.
Where's their incentive to do that? Where's their incentive to do that? Employers don't do that. I have a friend working on a company, Wealthbright, which is all about this. Like, why don't employers, especially these like big corporate firms, tens of thousands of employees, suddenly like someone who's come from like a working class background, whose, you know, parents maybe never even went to university, is the first person to go to university, now the first person to have a job in, you know, professional services. They've got shares, they've got they've got a salary that includes, you know, a bonus or compensation that includes a bonus. And yeah, I think financial literacy is often intentionally withheld to maintain the status quo, because the more people that know how to get rich, the less money the rich person, you know, will potentially have. And, you know, it's just fascinating. If you talk to like really rich people, like I'm talking like multimillionaires, they're the ones who, you know, for all of their businesses get paid in cash because they don't want to pay taxes properly, or like they're the ones doing like, you know, shady things that their dad taught them how to do, that their dad's dad taught him how to do, to keep their money. Like, people don't stay rich by being honest and being noble. Like, how did you get rich in the first place? You killed something, you stole something, you did something shady. It's always how it goes.
So who do I have to kill to get rich? I'm joking.
Stop
What I
looking
was
at
gonna
me.
say, what you mentioned is a good point actually. Actually, the incentive of the label and even the incentive of your employer is not for you to become independently wealthy, because then you're not going to work. So
No.
what's happened at like Nvidia, for example, is that a lot of these employees are now multi-millionaires. Some of them have like 10 million, 20 million. And it's like, they're obviously not going to be the hardest working employees. Why would they? They've gone clear. Same with T-Pain.
Yeah.
If T-Pain had turned his fortune into like $500 million, why would he produce another album? The label would be like,
Yeah.
man, like, you're not, we want you hungry, basically. And we want you,
yes.
we want your stomach rumbling. And if your stomach is rumbling, then you're going to grind and produce better output.
Yeah.
But I do know that Jay-Z's agency, Rock Nation, does, as a manager, as a management company, they do give their sports athletes and their musicians that training. And
That's
I think
great.
that needs to be done, as an industry standard. What's funny actually is the last thing on this whole music thing, Suge Knight, who I used to think was the big bad villain of the music industry,
Yeah.
he actually was trying to set up a union for musicians, so that every
No
time
way.
someone got signed to a label, a small part of that had to go to the union, and then in the union they would be trained and given this sort of kind of information and whatever, right? Because a lot of artists are kind of screwed over and they don't know they're getting screwed over with certain contracts, whatever. So maybe there was something to it. I don't know. But yeah, shout out to T-Pain.
Wow.
I think he's okay. I've heard he's making a lot of money doing Twitch streaming now, so shout out to him.
Can I just say, before we finish this topic of financial literacy, there's a point in someone's life where they decide that all of this stuff is too complicated to know about, right? It's like that point in someone's life where they decide, I'm not good at math or maths, whatever you call it. I'm not good at maths. And there's another point in someone's life where they're like, I'm not good at drawing. There are all these points in our life, I'm not good at music, where someone projects criticism onto us and we internalize it and we make that our truth, whether or not it is true. Like, I think everyone has the potential to have decent mathematical competency, decent drawing capabilities, etc. And I think when it comes to financial literacy, and I'm speaking specifically to women, because as you know, over the last year, as an entrepreneur, I've been on my own journey, looking into financial advisors, looking into investment managers, like looking into all the different options that are there to make my money work for me. And you will be surprised how many of my fellow highly educated, highly competent, highly accomplished women bring into this conversation who are like, oh, no, like, I don't invest, that's too complicated, I don't do this, I don't do that. And it just breaks my heart, because it's like, at some point in time, someone told you that this is complicated, or you tried to read, I don't know, the commodities report at the back of The Economist, or you tried to read something and you decided it was too complicated and it was too hard. And now you've internalized that. And when I say that this stuff is not complicated, I remember graduating in the recession when people were talking about credit default swaps and defaults and subprime mortgages, blah, blah, blah. It's all just mumbo jumbo lingo about basic buying and selling to make you feel like it's too complicated for you to understand. And this is really just my rallying cry. Get your money in order. Even if you don't have a lot of money, like even if you're just like, oh, Abadasi, that's great for you to say, you're an entrepreneur, whatever. Like, I've got student loans, I've got this, I've got that, I've got debt too, I've got student loans. But get yourself to a point where you feel confident understanding how capital markets work, how savings accounts work, how, debt works, because you hopefully will have an opportunity to teach someone you care and love about one day how to also, go on this financial literacy journey. And it really starts with you, and starting with you then brings it into your wider community. And I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast are of the global majority. People have intentionally denied us this information for centuries. And this is one way that we can, level the playing field and make things better.
Yeah, 1000%. And also, when you make that effort, oftentimes a village learns what you've learned. So I learned how to like invest in index fund, and then I taught my little cousin, who then taught his sister. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, it was like a bunch of younger people underneath me were now starting earlier, because I went ahead and said, you know what? Let me go get some books. Let me find out what books are good. Let me find out what books are not good. So yeah, completely shout out to that. I think one final story I want to talk about though is that I think we are now in the golden era for frenemies, basically. So
you my frenemy? Oh
no. Strictly friends. Okay. I saw a TikTok where this woman, and I don't know if this is real in it, but she basically said, 2 years ago, I looked up this girl who had my dream job at my dream company, and I saw that she was making daily vlogs. So I bought her 5 followers, and I gradually did it so it wasn't obvious. I made a bunch of fan accounts for her, and I even paid a paparazzi to photograph her in public. Eventually, she was legit convinced she was famous, and she quit her job to do social media full time. I applied for her position the very next day.
Lord
Now, I
have
don't know if
mercy.
this
That
is
is
real.
what? That is like
I
the
actually want to
biggest
see a book
spite
about
campaign
this.
ever. That would make,
I
that's
actually
like
want to
what
see
you're
a book.
saying. That's like the episode of Atlanta where Ern does the whole like fake children's book publisher to get back at that person that messed up his travel plans with her racism. This is like the episode of Curb where Larry opens the spite shop, the coffee shop next to the guy whose coffee shop he hates. But I mean, this is like long term. This is what a therapist would advise against, without a doubt. Like, it's a hilarious story, but it's incredibly bad for your mental health to obsess over someone's demise and actually put your own capital into it. Wow, that's like fucking Rasputin stuff, man.
I mean, I don't think she obsessed about her demise. I think she manifested her demise. So this is like, this is not even mental
Potato,
illness. This is like pure evilness. And you know what? The reason why I love this, and I don't know if it is real, is that nothing that was done here is inconceivable. Like, everything here
No,
actually
of
probably
course.
could be done, and everything here you could actually imagine somebody being duped into thinking, oh yeah, like, I'm lit right now. I'm getting lots of followers. It's popping up for me. Oh my god, there's paparazzi. Abadetti. Like, you're thinking, oh my days, I don't need this 9 to 5 no more. I don't need this 9 to 5 no
outside
more.
my Virgin Active gym. Like, click, click.
Oh my days. You know what? I shouldn't have even, maybe I shouldn't even talked about this because this might give someone some bad ideas. But anyway, a shout out to
If you wake up tomorrow with a million followers, and then a week later, acquisition offer for Pocket, just be wary, yeah? Be wary.
You know what? One last thing then, I think I should look a few tidbits and rants based on, I've been doing this kind of scout program. I got tapped up by a VC firm to listen, where's your startup, innit? I want half of Hustle Crew for 10K. Nah, so
sounds like a VC.
Basically, you know what? It's so funny in it how, like, for years I've been railing against VCs in it. Now I'm in the Illuminati. I'm saying the same things that they've been saying. I've been like, the valuations are insane. You know what? Like, because people are pitching me valuations, and I'm like, bro, you just started and you want, like, a $5 million valuation. Make it make sense. Like, I don't understand this world to a certain extent.
Market. The total addressable market is like 10 billion, and they're going to come in at a 20% market share straight off the bat. Who's Nike? I'm wiping them out.
Yeah, you know what?
I look at my early pitch decks, and I think the same thing. When I look at my early pitch, now that I'm actually 8 years into running a business and operating with profit, and like, no global domination, just a tiny little team of like 4 full-timers and like 10 whatever part-time consultants or 15 part-time consultants. I look back at my early decks, like when I just quit my startup, and I was like, I'm going out there, I'm raising $500,000, I'm doing it, and I'm just like laughing at the sheer audacity and ambition that I had. I'd be like, total addressable market for training, 1.2 billion. Hustle Crew share in the next 5 years, like 10%, therefore. And I'm just like, girl, really? But you need that audacity to change the world, and certainly to start a business, to make it succeed.
Yeah, you do need it, but you're not getting a check from me with that energy. That's what I'm saying. I need to see traction. I couldn't care less if you're gonna be like, yeah, this is the size of the market. If we get 1%, that means nothing to me.
I need R&D money.
But to be fair, actually, so I'm the only UK scout in the program. The majority of them are US scouts, and the US scouts have told me even more insane stories about valuations where people are like, we're raising a $30 million valuation, and it's like, oh my god, like, this is meant to be a pre-seed fund, and you lot come in on this kind of energy. But anyways,
some Series B energy, Series A. That's hilarious.
But let's talk about Play School. So what is Play School, Abedesi, and what is the Play School Accelerator? Break it down for us.
Okay, so when I started Hustle Crew, I did different accelerators, I did different incubator programs, and I realized like there's nothing in that space in terms of like a program, a training program, a support program that helps you get to the next level of your business. That's focused more on your own personal development, as in the own limiting mindsets that you have internalized, the bad productivity habits that you haven't addressed, the weak systems and tools that you haven't really deconstructed and replaced with better ones. And if you think of books like Atomic Habits by James Clear, he says you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And ultimately that's what Play School is about. It's about bringing a small group of founders at a similar stage in a business maturity to an incredibly intensive learning environment. We're going to do group sessions covering things like mindsets, habits, systems, and tools. I'm going to do deep dive masterclasses on every part of the sales journey. I'm going to tear apart people's websites, tear apart, the sign up journey, the user flow, all those kinds of things. I'm going to show them how I manage Hustle Crew, the systems and tools that I use. I'm going to do mock sales calls, mock pitches. I'm going to be on the other side of the table. For me, one of the driving forces behind Play School was that time that I became a VP at Brandwatch and I got to be my own customer. Because rarely as a B2B founder, do you have that opportunity to now become the person that you're pitching to, that budget holder, that decision maker? And I learned so much in that time that has now allowed me, coming back into Hustle Crew full time, to completely change how I do my sales process, how I develop my middle of the funnel, how I make it easier for my clients on the other side of the table to get a yes from their boss, from their budget holder, from their finance manager. So that's really what I'm trying to do with Play School. So if you are a founder selling to businesses and you are desperate to increase your revenue, close deals quicker, build long-term partnerships, but also do that deep introspection work of challenging your own mindsets, your needs in terms of your personal development as a leader, as a productive worker, Play School is for you. There are only 20 spots and they are filling up. The deadline to apply is 24th of September, or as soon as places are filled, you've got to apply. It doesn't take long, but visit hustlecrew.co/play school, hustlecrew.co/play school, and hopefully I will be coaching you this fall. That's awesome.
Oh, we'll put the link in the show notes. For this week's Techish, everybody, hit us up at TechishPod on Instagram and Twitter. Please follow and subscribe on YouTube. You can watch this you can watch us on the video format and not just the audio format if you're listening on a podcast app. We're really pushing our YouTube and it's growing quite considerably. So shout out to us there. Come find us there.
Thanks for subscribing, y'all. People who already have. It's so cool. We're YouTube stars now. Love it.
And we'll catch you next week. Peace, everyone. Bye.